The two
I-
people
I-
showed up and they're like,
Pardon me, folks.
was something.
Folks, we're gonna get going here, okay? Call the meeting, open at 1:32. And it's for a public, budget consultation. And we'll turn this over to CA Okowski.
Thank you, Reeve Clark. So I'll just start with a bit of a speech. So on behalf of administration, I am pleased to present the County of Statler's 2026 to 2029 budget. 2026 to 2029 budget is about keeping the County of Statler running strong today while preparing responsibly for what lies ahead. This budget supports reliable services, protects key infrastructure, and positions the county to respond to growth, change, and unexpected challenges, all while managing costs carefully in a challenging economic environment. Across every department, the focus is to do the same, do the essentials well, plan ahead, and make thoughtful decisions with public dollars. Inflation continues to affect fuel, utilities, equipment, and materials, and revenue sources remain uncertain. In response to this budget, emphasizes stability, efficiency, and long-term planning rather than expansion for expansion's sake. Administration plays a central role in coordinating services, supporting council, and strengthening the county's financial position. Continued emphasis is placed on grant funding, reserve planning, and long-term asset management. By improving how grants are tracked, planning for future technology needs, and building reserves for major replacements and the regional health initiatives, the county remains prepared for both opportunities and challenges. Public safety and community well-being remain top priorities. Protective services, emergency management, and fire services work together to safeguard residents, infrastructure, and volunteers. The transition to the Heartland Regional Fire continues to strengthen regional cooperation while investments in equipment, training, and volunteer support enable reliable emergency response across the county. Emergency management focus on preparedness, training, and regional coordination to ensure the county is ready when emergencies occur. Planning and development supports responsible growth by providing clear guidance, timely approvals, and up-to-date policies which reflect changing regulations and development trends. Ongoing work on land use planning, intermunicipal cooperation, and Buffalo Lake access helps ensure development aligns with community values and long-term sustainability. Operations remains one of the county's largest areas of investment, reflecting the importance of roads, bridges, drainage, and ground supply. Proactive maintenance, equipment replacement, and infrastructure upgrades help extend the life of the existing assets and keep transportation networks safe and reliable for residents, farmers, and businesses. Agricultural services continue to support producers and landowners through weed control, environmental stewardship, education, and infrastructure protection. These services protect both agricultural productivity and county assets, reinforcing the importance of agriculture to the local economy and the way of life. Environmental services, focuses on delivering safe drinking water, managing wastewater responsibly, and expanding rural water services where funding allows. Strategic investments and careful planning help ensure regulatory compliance, system reliability, and long-term environmental protection. Recreation and insurance programs strengthen community connections by supporting rural education initiatives, local organization, and risk management practices. By investing in youth education, not-for-profit sustainability, and insurance planning, the county supports healthy, engaged communities while managing risk responsibly. Overall, the 2026-2029 budget reflects a practical, disciplined approach. It prioritizes service reliability, protects critical infrastructure, supports volunteers and staff, and maintains reserves to ensure financial resilience. This budget is not just about numbers, but about stewardship, preparedness, and maintaining the quality of life residents expect. Council and administration look forward to continue this work together, guided by a strategic plan and informed by community priorities to ensure the County of Statler remains strong, safe, and well prepared for the future. Reeve Clark, I would now pass it over to our Director of Corporate Services, Krista Cornelson, and she can go through the numbers.
Thank you, Mrs. Cassidy. So before we start going into the departments, I'll just give a brief overview. This budget is a balanced budget. A balance of $1,072 is our bottom line at the end of our cash flow. You will see a 4-year capital budget here. This is what's required. We are only required to balance the 2026 year. 27, 28, and 29 are strictly for planning purposes for council to look forward and be aware of projects that are coming down the line. So I'll just go into the budgets based on departments. And so the first department that we'll look at is council. Council has a decrease in their budget of 5.77%. The reason why we have a decrease in council is to do with the election in 2025, so we don't have those expenses in 26, as well as some changes that were done that council had voted through on their per diems. Is there any questions on council?
Just a note, we moved our premiums down.
Correct. So then I'll move into the next department, administration. Administration has a slight increase. There's a 1.5% increase. Most of that is to do with basically inflation, cost of living costs. We are looking at some future software changes that are going to be down the line that we're going to need to do for accounting services. Some of the key projects for 26 are continued improvement of grant application coordination and financial tracking, development of standardized administration fees for shared and regional services, and ongoing reserve planning to support long-term financial sustainability and capital replacement needs. Is there any questions on administration? Seeing none, I'm just going to roll into the next department. So next we have fire. My document's slightly different, so fire has an increase of 15%. Some of the key projects that are taking place for 2026 is purchase of a new rapid attack units as well as brush units, one wildfire engine. Denilda and Bymore are going to be the brush trucks where they're going to be placed, and the new rescue unit will be in Stettler. And there's continued investment in firefighting training and safety systems. Reserves will also be being used to cover off a lot of this planned capital, so that's not necessarily reflected in our 15% increase. And at the revised budget, you're going to see some of these numbers changing as we continue to deal with the settlement of working through the town of Stettler Regional Fire Department and transitioning into the Heartland Regional Fire. So we're just going to have additional revenue expenses, and our revised budget in May will see those changes. Is there questions on fire? Seeing none, I will move into emergency management. So emergency management is got a decrease of 43%. This looks like a large increase, but the majority of it is one, we're dealing with some smaller numbers here. We did do a full-scale exercise that was covered by a grant in 2025. But some of the key projects we'll also be doing in 26 is some continued tabletop exercises that are not part of grants. We will also be doing some emergency management workshops. There's going to be the gradual purchase of some more emergency radios to ensure communication if cellular networks fail. And then the ongoing refinement of evacuation and mutual aid agreements. Is there any questions on emergency management?
So if I could, Mr. Chair, just the emergency management and protective services are so tightly wound. How do you split what goes into emergency management out of protective services? Weight-wise.
Wage-wise. So we have a breakdown as to which employees will be doing more work. So we do have a breakdown that is on individual basis for what they do.
Okay, so there's not a set number, it could fluctuate a little bit?
We tend to stay with a set number because we know that they're doing the majority of it. Thank you, a set percent, yes.
Oh, okay, fair enough, thank you.
I just have a question on it. After, like, we had the fire where we wanted, and folks responded to Drayton Valley. Does that build out differently?
So when we have employees that respond and assist with fires that are in, or emergency events in other departments, we end up reflecting that in the departments and billing those out. So then, depending on what those wages are that we're allowed to bill out based on the agreements with the municipalities, we then just bill them out and we collect that as revenue against each department.
That was in 2024.
We've had some in 23, 24, and 25.
Right.
Small.
Yeah. And so that will also be reflected in which department. So in the event that I am also now a deployable employee as well for administration and finance, that would be reflected in the administration department. Is there other questions on emergency management? So we'll roll into protective services. Protective services saw a decrease of 15% in their budget from 25 to 26. And the majority of that was some changes within staffing levels in the department. The key projects that are taking place for 26 is replacement of dash cameras that need an upgrade, as well as looking at body cameras that would be needed in the future, and continued participation in regional commercial vehicle safety checks. Some other stuff there is no capital that is planned. We also aren't worrying about a reserve transfer as we do have new vehicles within that department. We do tend to generate revenue also in this between training sessions as well as whatever our fines are. Is there any questions on protective services? Seeing none, we will move into operations. So you're going to hear me interchange the word operations and transportation services as well as public works. Those are all three end up getting used and they all mean the same thing. So in some of the document, you'll see transportation, you'll see operations in some spots, and you'll see public works in some spots. So I do apologize. It's a process that we are working through to make sure that we standardize it across the board. We do see an increase in this budget of 3.87%. Majority of this is to do with the cost of living as well as to do with the increased inflationary costs. The majority of operations, though, is status quo and continuing to offer the same level of service. Some of the key projects for 2026 include major road surface repairs, ongoing bridge and culvert replacements with provincial funding, drainage and infrastructure upgrades in hamlets, and continued gravel pit reclamation and brushing programs. The one thing to note is we have no real capital replacement scheduled for operations besides a fuel tank that's in here. So we've looked at this department and we've cut back all of the capital. Is there any direct questions in regards to operations, transportation services? Seeing none.
We went through. This is for the public to,
Yeah.
and we'll be going through the game, so.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
and again. So in the airport function 33, there is no writing in this. This is just a standard operation. We do have a transfer on our cash flow for covering off repayment of what we had used for airport funding out of reserves. Other than that, status quo at airports. So next I'll move into water and So water is, you'll see there's 41 and 42 is sanitary services. In the note part of this, you'll see that we call it sometimes utilities as well as environmental services. So water has an 8.4% decrease and sewer has a 1.9% increase. A lot of this is to do with some adjusted water revenues to better reflect actuals and any grant funding that we may be receiving. So some of the priorities is to continue to provide reliable delivery of safe drinking water, sustainable water and wastewater management, and proactive infrastructure maintenance and regulatory compliance. Now, we're quite tightly tied with the County of Stettler into the Shirley-McClellan Regional Water Services Commission. And so some of the key projects that will be taking place between those two is the completion of phase 7 and 8 in the Shirley-McClellan line, as well as the Denelda Reservoir and truck fill. We'll also be working on the Red Willow Lagoon project advancement, expansion of rural water servicing as funding allows, repairs to the Botham meter station and rural water lines, and planning for additional truck fill stations due to dry conditions if we receive provincial or federal funding, if they become available. Is there any questions on utilities?
Just with the expansion of Shirley-McClellan into phase 8 with it.
Yeah,
But we've taken that into account, what expenses will be to
yeah, and
monitor those two truck bills and.
yeah, so we always, for our operators, we always bill hourly, and then for our capital management, we're recovering those rates as well for the capital project side of it. So we don't see a huge increase this year. We're largely gonna see just phase 7 operations this year, and then phase 8 will still be on the capital side. But we do recover that from the commission.
Okay.
And we charge mileage, of course, for
Yep.
these.
And overtime rates, if it's overtime or if it creates our regular work to have to be overtime.
But increased mileage won't affect our fleet or anything like that.
I mean, it always has an impact, right? The more miles you put on a vehicle, the faster it miles out, right? But we do feel that our mileage rate is reasonably accommodating for the depreciation of the assets on the schedule that they're depreciating. It's reasonable.
Is there other questions in regards to water and sewer services, utilities?
Does that include the upgrades to Red Willow drainage?
So we'll roll into our next section, which should be our garbage. First one, scroll down.
You were waiting for me.
Yeah.
I was looking at my percents.
So what you'll see here is our garbage collection and services. There is increased revenue here. And I don't want to speak out of turn here because I'll manage to mess this up. I will actually turn this one over to Andrew because I have talked about this enough.
Well, I'm happy to take this one. Thank you for giving me the best one.
You're welcome.
Garbage doesn't always seem great, but recycling is included in our garbage collection and disposal. And this budget reflects on our net going down 287%, which does mean we went from it being an expense on our taxes to now it is a revenue source. And it is recycling is now subsidizing our tax rate to the tune of $160,000 net, because we're now receiving about $190,000 in recycling revenue. That's through the extended producer responsibility product or system, and that's largely just for access to our recyclables. The actual cost of recycling is also covered by the extended producer responsibility legislation. So revenue is up infinitely because we never used to make money in garbage, and our expenses are down 67% because we no longer have to pay out of pocket for recycling.
You explained it way better than I would have. So next we moved into Family and Community Support Services, FCSS. This is a status quo. This is just our support that we provide to the FCSS community, the grant that runs through us, and then we top it up with what we're required to for payments to them. Next, we roll into cemeteries. This is the cemetery funding that we provide to each cemetery. Any of the funds that we don't use, we put these into reserves at the end of each calendar year. if there is any cemeteries that we aren't funding, they just need to write into the County of Stettler requesting funding. And we just make sure that they are meeting the criteria that is required. No questions in regards to cemeteries, I'm gonna guess. And we move into agricultural services. Agricultural services is seeing a 28% decrease. This is largely made up of some staffing changes, decrease in capital purchases, decreases also in chemical application and being more strategic about how it is being applied and where it's applied. Some of the key projects for 26 will include agricultural education, oversights of parks and community mowing programs, Red Deer River weed management initiatives, and gravel pit reclamation and policy refinement. There is one capital replacement scheduled for protective or for agricultural services, and that's a replacement of a cattle scale to ensure continued support to the producers. Is there questions?
Just a question. Greg, after our conversations yesterday, you're still comfortable with that reduction? Libby?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my only concern. I thought if we're,
Yeah, no, the focus that we had is to maintaining and upgrading even our level of service that we reduce weeds and damage together. And it's reflected in this budget.
okay. Thank you.
So our next department we go into is planning and development. Planning and development is seeing an increase from 25 to 26, and that's approximately a 30% increase. The majority of this is we're seeing some changes in how we are going to be doing with the staffing as well as one of our partnerships, ensuring that the contractor that we have the ability to provide the services that we've done in the past. So we're looking at bringing those services in-house for what we need to. Some of the key projects for 26 is review and update of the municipal development plan and the land use bylaw. Creation of a joint use planning agreement with school authorities. Planning for improved public access at Buffalo Lake. And monitoring the landfill impacts near Erskine that we're required to do. One of the capital projects that we're doing within planning and development is new aerial photography and getting that done throughout the County of Stettler. Is there any questions on planning and development?
So that reflects one new in the labor, one new person,
One junior plan.
one junior center. We had discussions about possibly bringing on a second.
I think it's all dependent on workload and the relationship we have with our contractor at this point in time and what kind of readiness we.
So there's no issues as changing from a contractor that in the line item under goods and service supplies to changing that to labor. Because this is one of those departments we typically don't necessarily pull out of reserves for. It's, you know, if you had another grader or whatever you needed, you could pull out of reserves. That's a tough one for labor.
Yeah.
All labor for the most part.
The big jump in goods and supplies is specifically within the planning projects, which is the flexible, or where we have the flexibility that either we contracting or if we need to bring yet more in-house, you can utilize that fund.
Yeah, fair enough. Good. Thank you.
Our next department we roll into is recreation. Recreation is basically status quo. It's a 0.78% increase from 25 to 26. Some of the key projects are in for 26 is school and community signage, nonprofit engagement, and doing some more education and training. There is no planned capital investments, but I believe it's the 50th anniversary of the County of Stettler. No, in 28, it's the 50th anniversary. This year's the 48th. So there's just some additional work that we'll be doing in regards to the Community Service Awards. I did get those years wrong. I apologize. And so looking ahead, that there'll be a bigger celebration in 2028 for the Recreation Awards. Then we have our culture library museum. This one here has got a small increase of 1.4% increase from 25 to 26. This is to do with increased funding that we may get for library or museums that have been involved with, and it's just a minor increase. So overall, we roll into our cash flow and we make our adjustments for our amortization, any long-term principal repayments, some small receivable adjustments, inventory adjustments, and commitments from and to reserves, which gives us our bottom line of a surplus of $1,072. So this is the budget that I will be presenting in council on January. No, we're gonna roll it to, we're gonna give a little bit of time, just because we knew we were pushing the envelope with the council package getting out. So we're gonna be doing it at the second January meeting, which I believe is the 28th.
So unless the council objects, we'll be posting this budget document on the website and looking for any public input prior to the second meeting in January. Did you want to review our projected tax increases?
Yes.
This might be an opportunity. I add one question around the presentation so far. So I know you've shared this with council before, but I think it'd be important for the public. About what percentage of our budget is labor? And what is the cost of living adjustment that we provide staff?
So I can answer the cost of living offhand. I just have to pull into another. Andrew's probably already working on the first one.
Okay.
The cost of living adjustment that we did for 25 to 26 was a 1.5% cost of living adjustment.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't.
No worries.
Good thing he's quick.
Yes.
Okay, so of our $35 million in expenses, including capital, then we have $9.9 million in labor. So if I do quick math on that, that's about 33%.
Okay, thank you.
That's excluding capital.
That is including capital. And of course, obviously, that doesn't necessarily reconcile the different transfers to and plus our net operating surpluses. But it is a considerable portion, obviously, and that includes council remuneration, firefighters, staff remuneration, benefits, all things fall into that labor category.
Thank you.
So just to summarize in regards to the taxes, within this package, you can see on the screen there that we have a sample bill as to what your taxes would look like on a home assessed at $580,000. In this budget, we have presented, it's got an 8% tax increase to farmland, 2% to residential, 2% to linear and non-residential, and 2% to M&E. So if you're looking at this tax breakdown on the sheet in front of you or in the form in front of you, we have a breakdown for municipal taxes. So your total bill would be $4,850 on this particular home assessed at $580. Of that, the county would receive $2,478.34. $2,443.71 is actually for county use. The county requisition for recreation is $34. But then when you're looking at our total tax bill of the $4,850, $2,371.66 goes to requisitions, which make up policing, our solid waste requisition, that's part of Stettler Waste Management, town recreation funding, education requisition, Stettler Housing Authority requisition, and doctor recruitment.
On that, the That is only the town recreation, not the recreation we provide to the Hamels.
Correct.
Funding.
That's up in the top.
Were we gonna highlight that, show that the education goes straight to the government, or not to the county? That we're gonna like.
But it's paid out to the other
Yeah.
parties.
It is, but
Yeah.
Anything that's under the requisitions there is not money that the county of Stellar keeps.
people understand.
That-
rules.
And that's why what we've started to do in some of our presentations is we've started to present this to them so they are understanding, or that they're at least seeing that your tax bill might be $4,850, but the county of Stettler is only keeping $2,478 for county operations, and $2,371 we are paying out for everything else that we have to be.
It doesn't to the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just a banker.
And I know, but it doesn't show I'm paying.
This breakdown, this same sheet actually went out with our tax notices this past year based on the values that were appropriate for 25, but
If we're sending this and we put it in, I don't care what color you put it in, this is not your tax bill.
yeah,
This is-
the example watermark was not on the one we sent out this year. And a lot of people, looked at it and said, why are my taxes
Why do I
suddenly
have two-
$4,000, right? Or why do I have two tax notices? So, yeah, we'll make sure the watermark goes
Well,
out.
we'll consult which color we
Not
should
have
go
an
with.
example on it, all just in his area, everybody else.
Oh,
Because my area, I had quite a few phone calls out of my area too. There was a lot of people phoning concerned.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get it.
Regarding policing, that is, can we say RCMP?
Yes,
yes,
Rather, just so there's no confusion between our folks, which would be in the top line.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, our protective services is in the top line under the county taxes, but what we have to pay for policing requisition, RCMP requisition is in that bottom requisition there, correct?
But it's paid to the province.
Yes.
So if the
Yes.
province decided to go to provincial policing, could they change that funding or?
They
would
could
that be-
do whatever they wanted to, I think.
And where it goes. So the,
Yep.
the police funding model is meant to offset what is called the PPSA, or the Provincial Policing Service Agreement. So that's the agreement that the province enters into with the feds for the RCMP to serve as the provincial law enforcement. If the province decided to exit that contract, or or Canada decided to exit that contract, then they would have to have a provincial police force similar to Ontario. And we would expect that we're funding that either way. This police funding model, you guys probably saw the news releases, but this is quite a jump in the police funding model from last year. For us, the impact's about 28% increased year over year. So the police funding model was brought in a few years ago, and it was brought in somewhat gradually, and then they froze it for a couple of years, and they've decided they need to catch up. So we are going to be, we've been based off 2018 actuals for the last few years, and we'll be based off of previous year actuals now, which is quite, I think across the province, it's about a $70 million jump. Shared across everybody that doesn't have their own MPSA, so municipal police servicing agreement directly with the RCMP. We are one of those, and we have no choice but to pay it. It is in legislation and a debt payable to the town. So they have updated that regulation to implement a new formula over the next few years. They've got a bit of a decreased reliance on equalized assessment, which should help us as we move forward by 2032. But before then, we're obviously not seeing a decrease because the overall bucket has increased. So whatever portion of that bucket we were paying, even if it goes down a little bit, it's not going down fast enough to outpace the increased total bucket.
I think one of the issues, you talk about the education on taxes, leasing requisition is a prime example. One of the issues we run into is people are not happy, but they're willing to pay taxes or fees when they see an increased service. And this is not something that has been noticeable in our area in particular lately with the sheer amount of vacancies. And there doesn't seem to be any allowance in their calculation.
Actually, the new calculation does have an allowance for vacancies within your detachment. However, as it compares to the provincial average. So the province isn't picking up every, a percentage of your vacancies in your detachment. It's just the percentage above what the provincial average is. So if we've got, 3 vacancies and that represents a average number of vacancies close to what the provincial average is, we're not going to see a credit for that.
In their calculation, do they include hard and soft vacancies or just hard?
Just hard.
So do they do a percentage or is it a vacancy number? Because if you have 10 vacancies in a 50 member detachment, or you have 3 vacancies in a 10-member detachment, there's a big difference percentage wise.
I would have to double check the regulation. I can't recall.
Okay.
But
I mean,
that one's not being phased in. That doesn't start getting phased in for 2 years yet. So we don't get any of that benefit this year or next year. It's still largely based on the old formulas in these 2 years.
Yeah, two guys leaving us is a much bigger impact than somebody leaving at 50 guys.
Hypothetically, but
Pretty big, yeah.
Yes, pushing 50% or at least 38.
At a point, we're asking questions, so, okay. Go back to the rental.
To the cash flow?
Yeah, the bottom of the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I know we're talking 2026.
Yeah.
But when I seen that number in 2027.
So Andrew, if you can go cash flow bottom one more. Yep.
Okay.
So we aren't required to balance 27 through 29. It's strictly to make sure that we're looking ahead. And that's what the MGA's intention is to look ahead. This is not untypical for us to see a $4.5 million deficit for 2027.
Yes.
And so once we roll into the 2027 budget cycle, we end up really, because a lot of the stuff here has still got all of the wishes and wants. We haven't gone through it with a fine tooth comb.
Okay.
It's just hey, these are the things that we think should be coming down the line.
So we don't necessarily have to plan toward a large increase at this point.
No. What I will say is, I did receive a lovely survey to answer in regards to asset management this week. And I did do the survey and there was strong wording in it indicating that if asset management plan isn't being followed, will it be tied to grant funding? So this is something I think will be coming down in the next 2 years. So if that's the case, that may cause some extensive planning on parts of the county of Stettler.
Thank you.
Councilor Nyberg, this is.
So just if I could, Mr. Chair, thank you. The requisitions that we are required to pick up the tab for. That goes on every tax roll and it's a percentage of the tax. And what about those lots that are minimum tax? So we have some properties that are minimum tax lots, and then we also have the requisition that goes to those.
So every lot would still pay based on their assessment. They would pay in regards to all those requisitions, even the minimum tax. The minimum tax, of course, their amounts are, of course, significantly lower because there isn't as high of assessment value. But yes, everybody will pay towards those requisitions who pays property taxes within the county of Stettler.
Right, so when the minimum tax kicks in is after, it's say, so you have a very low assessment. So the municipal portion is $2.35, then your requisitions total another $2.35. And then we apply the minimum, so the difference is that.
Okay, and so then requisitions are paid on a percentage basis. So if I pay $10,000 in tax, I pay a percentage of that to that. So, and that's the same for M&E and linear, correct?
Well, it would just make a very pedantic correction that it's a percent of assessment, not a percent of tax, which is why the minimum,
Yes.
which is why the difference in the minimum tax, right? We don't have to pay, say 10% of the 75, we should pay 10% of whatever the.
Assessed value. Yeah, fair. Okay, that's good. Very good clarification. So the assessed value is what the taxes become. Yeah.
And M&E properties do not pay education taxes. They pay the rest of the requisitions, but they don't pay education.
So they don't pay rec, but record or education, but they do pay rec
Yeah.
and policing and all that other stuff.
Mr. Gunn?
Impact of unpaid oil and gas taxes. Can we, so I know it's difficult, I hope I'm not surprising too much, but just in generalities.
Well, it has hurt us quite a bit. 1 year we wrote off close to $4 million. And had probably in previous years wrote off 2 to 3 million before that. And then probably over the years since we took the big hit on the Trident. I would say probably another 2.5 million. But we deal with them as they go bad. So they're outstanding for probably 2 to 3 years. Then we bring them to council. We technically write them off as a bad debt that we apply to the government to get back our education portion. And then the rest goes into our budget as a deficit. It jumps up and down, but if it continues, it's really, and we have cut our budgets. 10 years ago, we were running between $30 and $40 million budgets. Now we're running between $20 and $30 million budgets.
And that's a reflection of. us
That's a
managing.
reflection of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good reflection of how county mostly management. Because I don't necessarily say that council, as much as we do have to say, it's presented to us, but it has been well done. Well managed.
Yeah, we've tried, we've definitely had to cut back on what we're doing or do more with what we have. And I gotta say that every department in the county stepped up and did that extremely well. We really saw it in COVID where we just basically, because we didn't know if we were gonna get any grant funding whatsoever and people were really struggling, we cut our operations just right back to basics. And we did it well. We're able to continue almost with the same level of service.
And from a municipality, we were sitting, it was the listing was 19 companies, I believe, that I'd sent to you. And we were sitting in the bottom third, but then over a 2 or 3 day period, we were sitting almost in the middle into the upper third because of announcements of another 2 oil companies that their taxes were coming back. So it's a moving target. But some small municipalities have taken huge hits.
We've worked hard in the last 20 years to build up reserves so we can weather these storms. And if we hadn't have had to take the hit on outstanding oil and gas properties, our reserves would be well over 20 million, 20 to 25 million. But we've been fortunate enough to be able to weather the storm. But you have to ask yourself how much more we can weather.
Yeah, if I could just add one more thing to that, what we are seeing already is a lot of submissions to the county regarding reclamation, so disconnection of equipment on sites. And our reclamation process is starting on a lot of these locations, so that alone, it's not it's a disconnect of tax dollars that will be so well. So
what is the percentage of our taxes that are coming in again?
From oil and gas?
Yeah, it's close to 68.
68.
Yeah.
You knew I was gonna ask that.
That's linear and needs.
Yeah.
Extends.
Power also, yeah.
Graph,
That's why Andrew was smiling.
actually,
I thought he'd have
I
it.
asked them to include that this year. It's a really fun.
It's right here.
Yeah.
I already did the calculation. That's why I said no.
It's 37.
The reclamation end though, as Gregory brought forward, is kind of a moving target too with mature asset, because they're trying to move some of those rec certificates through quicker. And as soon as the certificates through, it is the taxation and the surface lease payments are out the window at that point. So it is target on us, and we're seeing a lot more abandonment rates than we're seeing drilling rates in our county, so it's a storm we're gonna have to continue to weather.
We are a little fortunate in some municipalities because we are able to offset some of those losses with new power line construction, which we've seen in the north part of the county. And we also have two solar operations that probably will be coming on in the next couple of years, which will provide in the first 5 years significant tax dollars, which hopefully we can put away and save up for the rainy year, because I think the high taxation occurs in the first 5 years. And as the operation continues on, the taxes depreciate and get less and less.
Yeah, it's a pretty steep curve after the first 5 years of depreciation.
So if we, are prudent with our management and sock some away and able to catch up maybe the things while we've waited for these things to come online, especially with capital equipment, where I love council's direction with how we're handling our equipment. I think it's great. We're moving to a better grader that meets our needs, but not as expensive as some of the bigger 14Ms. We are doing some rebuilds, which mean we're extending the life of our graders by another, at least half. Yeah. And we're being, really, I think we're getting more wear out of our half tons, our 3/4 tons. And we're really looking at our service level and what type of trucks we need. First, our biggest challenge is utilities, with now Shirley McClellan going all the way up to the Saskatchewan border. But then the commission is also going to have to step up and help pay for some of them.
Any other questions? Well then, thank you.
So hoping that the public gets a chance to view this document. It's really well done, I think. And any comments you have, please give them to us. We'll be bringing it back, council to pass or amend January 24th. 28. Yeah, you just see the second council.
We put this up on our website to advertise. Is it possible to put Councilor Hunter's email?
I was thinking that same.
First call.
Yeah, we'll put them up first.
Okay, so if there's another question, other